Hi there and welcome to My Catholic Perspective. I am Allie Marie, a born and raised Michigander and Catholic convert at 21. I want to talk this week about why I stopped watching R-rated movies. It ties into the halftime show where J-Lo and Shakira performed together, which I did not watch because I don't watch shows that I know are going to be sexually graphic or just too much, like too many swear words or anything like that. When I had first graduated from high school, I started working with a multi-level marketing company instead of going to college. I was convinced by the people that I would become so rich and I wouldn't have to ever work a real job and all this stuff. And so I was living with my parents at the time for the first 3 months, and my dad and I were in the basement watching this movie. It was an R-rated movie. It was Black Dahlia, and I had rented it and said, hey, I'm going to watch this. And he said, oh, well, I'll come watch it with you. And we were like an hour into the show, and it really wasn't that bad. It was some sort of murder, whatever. And but my mom got home, and she came down to the basement, and literally the moment she walked down, like within 5 minutes, a terrible scene came on. It was, just like, it was a sex scene between like two girls and just really graphic, really bad. And we just sat there and like watched it. And I didn't really think anything of it because I had been watching just inappropriate stuff for quite a while. I'd been watching kind of whatever came on. And so she walked away, but then came storming back and was so mad that we wouldn't have like fast forwarded through it, that we wouldn't have done something else about it. My daughter's gonna join me here, apparently. She likes to watch herself sometimes. Ah, yeah, you see the baby. And so she told me that she didn't want that kind of spirit living in her house and I needed to leave. And I said, okay, I've been looking for a reason. Goodbye, I'll go. And so I did. And from right there, like, I realized over time how desensitized I was to so much of that I could genuinely say to my mom that those kinds of scenes don't bother me. I don't know what the big deal is. Like, it's just a scene. It's just a naked body. Like, who cares? But through sheltering, through removing myself from all of that, I have become so sensitive to those types of things. And it's a good thing. Like, to be respectful of another person's body, to be like, that's your personal property. That's the one thing that is always going to be only yours. And I respect you so much, I don't even want to look at that. That's where the respect comes from. It's not, like, people can get upset and say, oh, well, they need to put on more clothes and they need to do this and do that. Like, the media is saturated with scantily clad, dressed women. And it's up to us to respect them by not watching, by not looking at that, by saying, I understand that you think you need to do this for money, that you do it because it causes you to feel powerful, it causes you to, work through some of those daddy issues. I know it's like, daddy issues. I could do a whole video on that. But yeah, like, all of these different things, like looking for love, looking for attention, all of the different reasons that a woman would exploit her body. We have to respect them enough to say, I respect you and I'm not going to look at you. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take that step and say, I respect you, and so I'm not going to do it. So that's, I ultimately stopped watching R-rated movies when I converted Catholic because I knew that they were not from God. Like, when we look at the excessive swear, like, I never watched Deadpool. I never watched a lot of these shows that a lot of people have seen. And when I grew up, my parents didn't let me watch PG-13 movies until I was actually 13. And at the time, I was really frustrated. I was in 4th grade, so what is that, 10 years old? Something like that. And Titanic had come out. Everybody had watched it. All the girls were raving about it, this and that. And I wasn't allowed to watch it. And I remember feeling a little left out. But it was rated PG-13, there was nudity in it, and when I turned 13, when I reached puberty, I had zero expectation about how my body was supposed to look. I did not have any type of expectation, so I didn't have any body insecurities when I went through puberty, whereas I know that the vast majority of my female counterparts in school who had watched Titanic, who did read the Cosmo type magazines that were looking at that kind of stuff, they were having this expectation that their body was going to develop in a particular way, and then it wasn't. So there's definitely something to be said about, like, physiological maturity that just... Honey. Yeah, that's loud. Yeah, that's loud. Can you stop, please? There's something about physiological maturity that comes with age. It's why there's the rating system. I mean, PG movies are supposed to be 8 years and older. How many 4-year-olds have seen Frozen? It's rated PG for theatrical elements. Obviously, every parent has to judge for their own child. Like, every child is different, but there is a reason that the rating system exists. Why there is a PG and a PG-13 and an R rating, because we can't even handle it. But when we look at the Bible, when we look at what Christ said as, like, no one will enter the kingdom of heaven unless they are like a child. When we look at childlike innocence, you know, and people look at that like trust, like blind faith, and sure, that could be an aspect of it, but innocence is also that purity of mind. Like the Philippians tells us, whatever is true, noble, pure, right, focus on such things. And so we need to be focusing on those things and understanding that Hollywood is not like normal. That is not a necessarily like healthy way to be. And so we definitely have to consider that watching R-rated movies and R-rated TV shows, you know, I've never seen Game of Thrones. I don't watch it. I saw the first episode and realized what it was all about and was like, there is no way that I will litter my mind with this. And I've had people argue that Jesus would sit there with them and watch it. And it's like, Jesus wouldn't be wasting his time watching TV in general. Like, I don't think he'd own a TV. He wouldn't be all about pop culture. He'd say, leave your TV, sell your TV, get rid of it. I don't need a couch to sit on. You know, it's a totally different mindset. And, but that was an extreme argument. I understand. Whatever. Anyway, so it's just, it's an interesting aspect, but ultimately, we have to decide what we're going to watch. And I would not have even known about the halftime show if it hadn't blown up in the media. I mean, my mom had texted me and said it looked like porno and a pagan ritual. And when I kind of looked at some of this, you know, I skimmed through the video. I did not watch the whole thing. I understand that people were happy about some of the Latina things. You know, they had the flag and there were some songs that were in Spanish, I guess, and some different things. I don't know. I didn't watch it, like I said. So, but I was also old enough to be aware of when Janet Jackson had her little wardrobe malfunction with Justin Timberlake. I was like 10 or 11 or 12 or something. So it was, I might have even been 13. So I was old enough to remember that. And so I haven't ever been interested in the halftime shows because even then, like, everyone was so freaked out about it. It was like, well, why do we even watch it then? Like, this is obviously not good stuff. This isn't like wholesome family TV. So I don't know why anybody would have had the expectation that it would be. And I understand the desire for it to be, but I mean, cheerleaders don't exactly dress modestly, and there are all kinds of different aspects of football that are about the big gruff man and the dainty little lady. So those are my thoughts. I would encourage you. I mean, it's hard. There are certain R-rated movies that I do watch. I'm not gonna lie, but they are I don't really feel like they should be rated R. They're more PG-13, and it's not for sexual stuff. And I think the sexuality for me is definitely a stumbling block. We have to identify what we struggle with, and for me, cursing and sexuality are two things that I veer away from. Somebody who might feel inclined to do a mass shooting should probably stay away from movies that have an obscene amount of gore and violence. I'm not susceptible to that kind of stuff, so I have no problem watching it. But somebody else might have more anger in them and be more likely to act out and feel that emotion. And so we have to be aware of our own shortcomings, our own stumbling blocks, and be able to identify those and then be able to find a way to move past them and work with them. So I would just encourage you to maybe take a step back. It takes some time, but I promise you it's worth it. Getting sensitized to this kind of stuff is so paramount, and just like I had talked about, respecting that person by just saying, you know, kind of if you're with someone and they start changing, you kind of look away. You're I don't want to look at you. I respect your body. You change. I don't need to look at you. And, you see the movies where the guy's kind of creeping or something, trying to watch the girl change, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's disrespectful. That's not respectful. And so allowing them, even though they're offering it, allowing them that privacy, giving it to them even though they're not asking for it, is the greatest form of respect that we can offer them. And when women are looking for respect, that's how we can show that we are offering it to them. So those are my thoughts for today. I hope you enjoyed my little daughter's little screeches or screams earlier. She does have quite a voice. So, but God bless you. I'm going to go find her. She's getting into something right now. So we'll talk to you guys soon. See you in the comments. I pray that God is able to grant you the resources you need to draw closer to Him and to those around you. And I hope you're able to make it a great day. We'll see you next Thursday at 3.